Beloved, chosen ones, pause for a moment and let the world's clamor fade. That striking number, 444, on the thumbnail caught your eye, didn't it? It's no mere coincidence that it drew you to click this video. In the Bible and Christian life, 444 symbolizes divine protection, angelic guidance, and the completion of God's perfect plan, reflecting the number of four's connection to creation and wholeness, multiplied for emphasis on His faithful oversight. You've been praying, seeking, and wondering when your efforts would bear fruit. This is that moment, chosen one, when everything aligns, not because of your efforts alone, but because you've stayed faithful in that one thing God has called you to do. Every struggle you've endured, every moment of doubt you overcame, every step you took in obedience, God has seen it all, and you've made Him happy today. Your persistence has unlocked a season of divine favor. Why are you here watching this video? Because your spirit knows God is speaking directly to you, encouraging you to keep doing this one thing and elevate your purpose to new heights. Join our global community of faith. Comment below with your city or country, and type 444 to declare your trust in God's protective guidance. Hit the like button to spread this heavenly message. Subscribe to stay anchored in God's direction, and stay with me, chosen ones, for God is affirming your path today. You were obedient in the small, and that obedience moved heaven, chosen one. The world has trained people to chase only what is big. Big platforms, big breakthroughs, big miracles, but the kingdom of God has always operated through the small. It was a mustard seed of faith that moved mountains. It was 5 loaves and 2 fish that fed thousands. It was a whisper, not thunder, where God spoke to Elijah. And today it was your quiet obedience that caught the eyes of heaven. You didn't do it for show. You didn't post it. You didn't broadcast it, but God saw it. Maybe it was that moment you said no to something that no one else even knew about. Maybe it was when you felt the tug to pause and pray, even if it was just a few seconds, and you obeyed. Maybe you turned off the distraction. Maybe you took the longer route just to avoid a conversation that could have stirred your flesh. These things may seem like nothing to the world, but in the spiritual realm they are seeds that split atmospheres, because obedience is never small to God. What sets you apart isn't how much you do, it's how much you obey. You didn't need to preach to thousands. You simply said yes when it was inconvenient. And that yes, no matter how quiet, was worship. Chosen one, open your spirit wide and receive this truth. Faithfulness in the little things, those unnoticed, unglamorous, everyday acts of obedience, is never wasted. It is the sacred training ground for everything greater that heaven has prepared for you. This is not because God is some harsh taskmaster testing you to see if you will break. No. He is a wise, tender Father who is carefully, lovingly preparing you, shaping you, strengthening you for the weight of glory that is about to rest upon your life. Every small yes you whisper when no one is looking is quietly building spiritual muscle that natural eyes cannot see. Every quiet surrender you offer at the altar is driving your roots deeper into the soil of His unchanging love. Every time you deny the loud demands of your flesh, your spirit rises bolder, clearer, and more unshakable than the day before. Luke chapter 16 verse 10 speaks with eternal authority when it confirms, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much." This single principle is what separates the merely called from the truly chosen. Many are called. Few walk the narrow path long enough, faithfully enough, humbly enough to be chosen. And you, chosen one, have proven over and over that you belong in that rare company. Not because you performed for crowds, not because you waited for applause, but because you kept saying yes in the secret place when no human eye was watching, when no phone was recording, when no reward was immediately visible. You were not waiting for a platform. You were not waiting for recognition or validation. You were not performing obedience for likes or shares. You were simply beautifully available. Available to hear the gentle whisper of the Holy Spirit in the middle of an ordinary day. Available to move when He said move, to stop when He said stop, to lay down what was precious when He asked you to release it. That availability has made your spirit dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The enemy is never afraid of noise. He is never threatened by religious activity or emotional outbursts. What terrifies him is pure, consistent, quiet obedience. He trembles when a child of God chooses the still small voice over the roaring volume of the world. He loses massive ground every single time you choose stillness, when your flesh screams for chaos, every time you choose submission, when pride demands to be heard, every time you choose the narrow road when the wide highway looks so much easier. In those moments, something supernatural happens. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The natural aligns with the eternal, and you become truly unstoppable. You did not need to understand every detail. You did not need a full roadmap. You did not need perfect conditions. You simply obeyed. And there is raw resurrection power in that kind of obedience, power that even seasoned warriors sometimes forget, because they grow familiar with the concept but stop living the reality. Obedience is the native language of heaven. It is the unmistakable proof of genuine trust. God is never moved by the size of your promises or the volume of your declarations. He is deeply moved by what you actually do when no one else is looking, when it costs you something, when it would be easier to compromise. Today you did something that may have seemed small in your own eyes, perhaps a simple act of kindness, a moment of forgiveness, a prayer whispered in secret, a boundary set to protect your peace, a temptation resisted, a seed sown when your account felt empty. But you did it unto the Lord, not unto men, and that single act just became eternal. Heaven does not keep records of prideful noise or self-promotion. Heaven keeps meticulous records of the silence of obedience. That silence echoes louder than thunder in the throne room. The silence of turning the other cheek when revenge would have felt so justified. The silence of walking away instead of retaliating with words that would wound. The silence of shutting your door and worshiping when your heart was broken. The silence of giving up what was comfortable because consecration was more important. The silence of choosing holiness when compromise was whispering your name. These are the moments that build unbreakable legacy. These are the moments that shift bloodlines. These are the moments that cause angels to stand at attention and demons to flee in terror. Maybe no one clapped for you today. Maybe no one even noticed. Maybe the reward did not appear instantly. Maybe it still feels like you are pouring out and seeing nothing in return. But chosen one, hear me clearly. Not one of your yeses has been wasted. Not one has fallen to the ground and died. Every single one is being gathered, multiplied, and stored in heavenly storehouses. Every quiet obedience is opening doors you do not even know exist yet. Every surrendered desire is writing chapters in a story that heaven itself is proud to tell. You are laying brick upon brick in a spiritual foundation that hell itself cannot shake. What looks like a tiny, insignificant act in the natural is actually a seismic shift in the spirit realm. Heaven's economy does not operate like the world's. What appears to be a step backward, a delay, a loss, or a demotion in the natural is often divine acceleration in the spirit. What feels like silence is often the sound of massive angelic armies being dispatched on your behalf. What feels like loneliness is often the Holy Spirit drawing you deeper into intimacy that will sustain you when the crowds finally come. Chosen one, your obedience is rare. That is exactly why the cost has been so high. That is exactly why the warfare has been so intense. That is exactly why the enemy has fought you so fiercely over the smallest things. Because he knows something you are only now beginning to grasp. Even your smallest yes carries kingdom weight. Even your quietest obedience moves mountains. Even your hidden faithfulness shifts destinies. So do not grow weary in doing good. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Do not underestimate the power of one more yes when your flesh is screaming no. Keep trusting that the God who sees every secret thing is already moving in response to every surrendered moment. Keep believing that the reward is not delayed. It is being prepared in greater measure than you can imagine. Keep walking in obedience because every step is bringing you closer to the moment when heaven shouts your name, when the storehouses open, when the greater things you have been prepared for finally stand in front of you. Chosen one, you are not just obedient. You are chosen because you are obedient, and that makes all the difference in eternity. Keep going. The Father is smiling. The angels are watching. The enemy is trembling. And your greater is coming built on every faithful little thing you refuse to let go of. So keep obeying in the small. Keep showing up. Keep listening for the whisper. Keep choosing the quiet path of surrender. Even when it feels like no one is clapping, keep praying when it seems like nothing is shifting. Keep guarding your heart when distractions come dressed as opportunity. You are doing more than you think, and heaven is closer than it feels. Angels are moving even now. The heavens are opening inch by inch because of your faithfulness. What feels ordinary is carrying eternal weight. What feels unseen is fully visible to God. You could have chosen the flesh today, but you didn't. Chosen one, this matters more than you know. There were moments today where the temptation was real. You felt the pull. You felt the invitation to step back into old patterns. Old thoughts knocked on the door. Old wounds whispered lies. But you didn't open the door. You didn't take the bait. You didn't entertain the trap. You said no. And that quiet no was thunder in the spirit. You could have reacted, but you stayed still. You could have cursed them in your heart, but you prayed instead. You could have picked up the phone and fallen into the cycle again, but you held your peace. You could have run back to the familiar just to feel something, anything. But instead, you stood your ground. Heaven saw it. Hell hated it. God smiled. It wasn't easy. Don't think for a second that your resistance went unnoticed. The enemy saw the moment you stood at the crossroads, and he waited for you to crumble. But you stood firm. Even if your hands trembled, even if your voice shook, even if your heart felt tired, you chose the spirit over the flesh. And that is victory. This is the spiritual battleground. Few talk about the quiet moments, the internal wars, the flash of temptation followed by the choice to turn away. That's where battles are won. That's where crowns are forged. That's where warriors are shaped. You didn't fall for it this time. You've grown chosen one. Can you feel it? Chosen one, take a moment and let this sink deep into your spirit. That same vicious attack that would have completely trapped you, paralyzed you, and dragged you backward a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, you walked straight past it today without even breaking stride. That familiar, seductive voice that once lured you back into old chains. That voice that used to feel irresistible sounded thin, weak, and almost laughable this time. You did not just survive the moment. You transformed in the middle of it. You rose higher while the enemy was still setting the trap. And that quiet, steady transformation terrifies the kingdom of darkness far more than any loud victory shout ever could. Because you are no longer the person you used to be. You are becoming someone the enemy no longer recognizes. There is a holy, refining fire burning in you right now. Every single time you deny the loud, demanding voice of your flesh, your spirit sharpens like a blade being honed on the whetstone of heaven. You are becoming spiritually precise, dangerously accurate, able to discern the slightest shift in the atmosphere. You are walking with a clarity you did not possess before, seeing things in people, in situations, in yourself that used to be hidden behind layers of deception. And the most dangerous development of all, the one that causes demons to tremble and principalities to regroup, is this. You are waking up to the full weight of your God-given authority. Choosing the spirit over the flesh is never weakness. It is the highest form of spiritual warfare. It is you enforcing the victory of Calvary in real time. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22 rings out like a battle cry when it proclaims, "Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart." You did exactly that today. You fled. You turned your back on what once held you captive. But in your fleeing, you did not merely escape. You advanced. You charged forward into greater measures of righteousness. You seized new spiritual territory. You planted the flag of victory on ground the enemy thought was permanently his. Every step away from temptation was a step deeper into the heart of God. Every refusal became a declaration. This no longer has dominion over me, but listen very closely, chosen one, because the enemy is cunning and he never quits permanently. He will circle back. He will dress the same old temptation in brand new packaging. He will wait for the moment you are exhausted, hungry, lonely, or celebrating a victory, because those are his favorite times to strike. He will speak with a softer, more reasonable voice, one that sounds almost spiritual. That is why today matters so much. That is why you must lock this moment into your memory. You discovered the raw, overcoming power of your sanctified no. Your no is not hesitation. It is not weakness. It is holy resistance. It is the sound of chains snapping. It is the proof that you belong to a higher kingdom, that you serve a greater king, that your spirit bows only to the Lord Jesus Christ and to no counterfeit throne. When the powers of darkness pressed in today and realized you would not bow, would not compromise, would not negotiate with sin, they had no choice but to back away in defeat. You may not have seen it with natural eyes, but legions of angels stood guard around you, swords drawn, forming a wall of fire no demon could cross. You may not have heard it with natural ears, but the Holy Spirit himself interceded for you with groanings too deep for human words, praying perfect prayers when your own words failed. You may not have felt it in your emotions, but the refining fire of God surrounded every decision you made and marked it as pure worship before the throne. So here is your declaration for this new season. Speak it out loud, type it boldly in the comments. Let it become the anthem of your spirit. I choose light. Why this phrase? Because light exposes every hidden thing. Light frees every captive soul. Light purifies whatever it touches. When you chose light today, you chose truth over every cleverly disguised illusion. You chose purity over slow-acting poison. You chose crystal clarity over the fog of confusion the enemy kept trying to blow across your path. That single choice was not small. It was not mere survival. It was spiritual mastery in motion. You are mastering the unseen realm. You are passing tests that no one around you even knows exist. You are being trained in the secret place by the greatest commander who ever lived. You are becoming strong in spirit, refined by fire, forged in silence, tempered by obedience. While the world sees only the surface of your life, you and your Father know the fierce price being paid beneath it, the battles fought in the prayer closet, the tears shed in the car, the victories won when no one was there to cheer. Let I choose light become the battle cry you release the instant temptation shows its face. Say it when the old memories try to play. Say it when your body is weak and your emotions are raw. Say it when the past sends a text message or walks past you on the street. Say it when loneliness whispers that just one compromise wouldn't hurt. Say it until your flesh fully submits to the authority of your redeemed spirit. Say it until it is no longer a statement but an identity. Chosen one, you are not slipping backward. You are not plateauing. You are not stuck. You are stepping forward into greater measures of freedom, greater levels of authority, greater intimacy with the Father than you have ever known. Every time you choose light, you rise higher. Every time you flee temptation and pursue righteousness, you advance. Every sanctified no is another chain broken forever. The enemy knows it. Heaven celebrates it. And deep in your spirit you feel it. You are becoming the version of yourself that hell tried for years to prevent. Keep choosing light. Keep fleeing and pursuing. Keep resisting and advancing. The tests are turning into testimonies. The refining is producing radiance. The authority you are waking up to is about to be released through you in ways that will shake everything around you. Chosen one, you are not falling back. You are rising unstoppable. The light you keep choosing is not just protecting you, it is preparing to shine through you and change everything in its path. I choose light. Say it with me. Live it with me. The victory is already yours. You didn't choose the old you. You didn't choose the fake comfort of sin. You didn't choose the path of least resistance. You chose light, and God took note. So walk boldly today. The shift already happened. The test came and passed. You won. You chose mercy instead of revenge, and God marked it. Chosen one, slow down and let heaven replay the scene for you, because what happened today was not small. And it was never insignificant. To every casual observer, to every person scrolling past your life, it looked like nothing at all. Just another moment, just another conversation, just another slight that could have been ignored or exploded. You were wronged in a way that stung deeply. Your name was mishandled, dragged through careless words. Your character was questioned. Your efforts were overlooked. Your heart was treated as if it did not matter. In the natural, every human being on the planet would have given you full permission to respond, to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to clap back with precision and power. No one would have blamed you. Many would have cheered you on. But in that exact moment when justice felt so close and retaliation tasted so sweet, something far greater rose up inside you. A quiet, holy, ferocious mercy took over. You opened your hand and released what you had every right to grip tightly. You let go of the urge to correct them publicly. You let go of the need to prove you were right. You let go of the burning desire to make them feel what you felt. Instead, you extended mercy they did not earn, did not ask for, and certainly did not deserve. And in that single silent act, you did not just silence your flesh. You silenced an entire assignment of darkness that was waiting for your reaction to gain legal ground. Do you have any idea how powerful that was? Mercy is never weakness. Mercy is never passive. Mercy is not the absence of strength. It is strength under the perfect control of the Holy Spirit. Mercy is the chosen weapon of sons and daughters who walk in the authority of another kingdom. When you released mercy today, you reflected the very heart of the Father who, while we were yet sinners, sent his Son. You mirrored the nature of a Savior who, while being reviled, did not revile in return. You became a living demonstration of the gospel in a world that only understands retaliation. Heaven itself went silent for a split second, the way it does when something profoundly sacred takes place on earth. Angels leaned forward. The accuser of the brethren opened his mouth to speak and found no ground, no accusation, no foothold, because you refused to partner with offense. You laid down your right to be right. You laid down vengeance even though it was legally yours. You could have exposed every detail. You could have gathered allies. You could have posted, texted, vented, or destroyed. You could have chosen the temporary satisfaction of being understood by men, but instead you chose the eternal satisfaction of being approved by God. That chosen one is what true strength looks like. Anyone can react. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can demand justice in the moment. But it takes a heart that has been shattered and rebuilt by Jesus to release instead of retaliate. It takes a spirit that knows its identity is hidden in Christ to absorb the blow and still bless. You did not suppress the pain. You surrendered it. You carried it to the altar and laid it at the feet of the only judge who never makes a mistake. And even though no human being stood up to applaud, even though no one may ever know what it cost you, the Ancient of Days rose from his throne in honor of your restraint. He marked that moment in the scrolls of eternity. He recorded it beside your name in ink that will never fade. He looked at the Son seated beside him and said, "Look at my child. They chose my way when it hurt the most. And right now, even as you read these words, the reward for that mercy is already in motion. The repayment has already begun. What you released in secret is being multiplied in the open. The Father who sees what is done in secret is the same Father who rewards in the open, and his reward is never late, never small, never forgetful. Chosen one, you did not just win a battle today. You shifted a bloodline. You canceled a cycle. You shut a door that generations could have walked through into bitterness and revenge. You chose the higher way, the narrower way, the Jesus way. And because of that, peace will follow you into rooms you have not yet entered. Favor will open doors you did not knock on. Healing will flow into places you thought were permanently broken. The mercy you gave is coming back to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Never underestimate the weight of one moment of spirit-led restraint. Never minimize the eternal impact of choosing mercy when justice was yours to take. You reflected the Father's heart today, and he is proud to call you his own. The moment was not small, it was monumental. and heaven will never stop talking about what you did when no one was watching. Your reward is sure, your legacy is secure, and your Father is smiling. The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 19 declares, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge. I will repay,' says the Lord." You may not feel like anything happened, but everything happened. You disrupted a generational pattern today. You broke a cycle that's been in your family line for decades. Where others would have held on to bitterness, you let it go. Where offense could have settled in your soul, you cleared space for peace. And God is not casual about that kind of obedience. He honors it. You didn't just choose mercy for them. You freed yourself. That weight you would have carried, that replaying of what they did to you, that spiritual poison, you rejected it. And because of that, your soul is lighter. Your heart is clearer. Your hands are clean. Chosen one, this is what sets you apart. You don't just talk about grace, you give it. You don't just quote forgiveness, you embody it. You don't need people to bow before you for you to move on. That's maturity. That's spiritual intelligence. That's Christ-likeness. And let me say this, God will defend you. You do not have to campaign for your reputation. You don't have to fight for vindication. When you walk in, mercy heaven becomes your shield. You are not forgotten in your pain. God sees both what they did to you and what you refuse to do in return. And your restraint will be rewarded. Maybe not in the timing you expect, maybe not in the way you want, but it will come because God is just and He is not overlooking your surrender. This is the type of obedience that unlocks divine promotion. When God sees, He can trust you with pain and you won't weaponize it. He can trust you with power and you won't misuse it. That's how mantles are born. That's how kingdom leaders are shaped. Not through revenge, but through release. What you let go of today was not weakness. It was strength under control. You are not a doormat. You are a doorway. You are not someone who gets walked over. You are someone through whom heaven walks into rooms. And people may never know what you withheld. They may never realize the anger you swallowed, the retaliation you refused, the pride you laid down, but God knows, and that's all that matters. There are rewards coming for those who walk like this. You may not see them yet, but the path of mercy always leads to multiplication. You will not just recover, you will reap. And when it comes, it will be more than what you lost, more than what they took, more than what you deserved. You gave mercy, and you will receive glory. Hold your posture. Don't let the enemy lie to you and say your softness was failure. Know your mercy was warfare. You killed pride. You disarmed rage. You walked like Jesus. And when you look back on this day, you'll realize it was never about them. It was about you stepping fully into the nature of the one who chose you. You made a move in secret, and heaven recorded it. Chosen one, there was something you did today that no one saw. No one applauded. No one knew about it but you and God. It didn't make a post. It didn't trend. It didn't feel dramatic or powerful in the moment, but in the eyes of heaven, it was thunderous. You moved in secret, and the Spirit moved in response. It might have been a whispered prayer before you opened your eyes. A moment when you closed your door and worshipped, when you could have just gone on with your day. Maybe you sowed a seed, gave sacrificially, or encouraged someone privately, not for attention, but out of love. Maybe you simply repented in quiet. You turned your heart back toward Him when nobody else knew you were drifting. That's the kind of movement that shifts things in the Spirit. There are people who shout with no weight, but then there are those like you, those who whisper and heaven listens. Because your authority isn't in your volume, it's in your posture. And today, your posture before the Lord moved mountains you couldn't even see. Chosen one, you didn't come here for show. You didn't say yes to God because it was glamorous. You said yes because your spirit recognized truth. You weren't trying to impress people. You were trying to please God. That heart posture is rare, and that's why you carry something others can't explain. Heaven values what man overlooks. The book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 6 affirms, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. That moment today when you chose intimacy over noise, God saw it. And more than just seeing it, He stored it. Every tear you shed in secret was collected. Every quiet act of obedience was written. And not one of those moments will go unrewarded. You are storing treasure in a realm that cannot be touched by rust moths or the opinions of men. You're building a legacy in a realm where fame means nothing but faithfulness means everything. You may feel unseen, but you are deeply known. You may wonder if it matters. Let me tell you now, it does. Your secret obedience is preaching louder than any microphone could. Your integrity is louder than any performance. And your quiet worship when no one is watching is more valuable than the loudest praise on a platform. That's why the enemy has tried so hard to distract you, because he knows what happens when you keep moving in secret. He knows what is being built behind the curtain. He knows that if you ever see yourself clearly, if you ever realize the weight of your hidden obedience, you'll become unstoppable. You're not waiting for revival. You are the revival. You're not waiting for a movement. You are the movement. So don't downplay what you did today. Don't minimize the cost. Don't brush off the whisper that told you to kneel, to bless, to forgive, to shift, to do. It was all real. It was all noted. It was all holy. And now, if this word has met you right where you are, if it stirred something that you haven't felt in a while, take a moment. Don't just scroll away. Hit the like button, not because you're told to, but because it agrees with what God just confirmed in you. Share this message if it awakens something that someone else needs to hear. You don't know who's on the edge, and your simple share might be the divine rescue. And if this is the kind of atmosphere your soul has been craving, don't stay disconnected. Subscribe not out of routine, but because this isn't a feed, it's a flow. This is where heaven meets the hidden ones. This is where the called become the consecrated. You belong here, not by accident, not by curiosity, but by divine appointment. Chosen one, keep moving in secret. Keep obeying when no one is watching. Keep giving heaven something to record, because you are being built in the quiet for a day that will not stay quiet much longer. And when that day comes, when God brings into light all that was done in the shadows, you will not be ashamed. You will stand as one who did not need applause to be faithful, because faithfulness was always enough. God loved your sacrifice today more than you know. Chosen one, something you did today cost you, and you didn't make a show of it. You didn't announce it. But in your spirit, you felt the weight of it. You gave something up, and it wasn't easy. You surrendered something, maybe time, maybe energy, maybe a resource, a desire, a relationship, or a comfort, but you let it go, and God received it as worship. It wasn't just a loss, it was a holy offering. There are sacrifices the world never sees, silent sacrifices daily. Denials the kind that come from a heart that says, God, you're still worth it. You may not even be sure why you felt led to release it, but you did. And the moment it left your hands, heaven received it with joy. God doesn't measure the size of your sacrifice. He measures the depth of your heart behind it. You gave out of your lack. You gave out of your pain. You gave even when you didn't feel seen. You gave when you had every reason to hold back. That is the kind of giving that causes heaven to respond. The book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 44 mentions, "They all gave out of their wealth, but she out of her poverty put in everything all she had to live on." That widow had 2 coins. You may have had 2 hours of sleep, $2 left, 2 emotional spoons to function with, and you still gave. You still poured out. You still obeyed. And God took notice not just of what you gave, but of what it cost you to give it. And now, chosen one, heaven is moving in response. You might not feel anything shift right away. You may still feel the ache of what you released, but sacrifice always plants something in the soil of the Spirit. And though others can't see it yet, your harvest is already in motion. The world glorifies abundance, but God honors sacrifice, because sacrifice is proof that your heart is tethered to something higher than comfort. It's proof that obedience matters more to you than applause. It's proof that you trust God with not just your eternity, but with your today. You gave and God saw you, surrendered something you could have held on to, and that means you trust Him more than the thing you gave up. That trust releases blessing. That trust opens heaven. Even if your flesh wrestled with it, your spirit won. And listen carefully. Don't let the enemy lie to you about what you released. Don't let him tell you that you're foolish for letting it go. Don't let him shame you for doing what God asked of you. Don't let him whisper that your sacrifice was for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. It was for everything. Because when you sow in tears, you will reap in joy. When you surrender what you love for the one you love more, that's never wasted. That's where revival begins in hearts that lay themselves down again and again. Not for show, but for love. You are being refined, not punished. Refined, not ignored. Honored. And what you released today created space for something better to enter, something eternal, something holy. Sacrifice clears the clutter. It strips away the noise. It makes room for glory. God loved your sacrifice today. He didn't just tolerate it. He didn't overlook it. He loved it. He breathed on it. And He is weaving it into your destiny. So don't mourn what you gave up. Rejoice that you had something worthy to lay at His feet. Now, if this word has spoken directly to your spirit, there's something prophetic I want you to do. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. Comment the number 8383 below. That's your covenant number. That's your I remember the altar number. It marks this moment as a line in the sand when you said, God, you're still worth it. Even this, I lay down. And don't be surprised when doors begin to open, when peace begins to fill you, when answers start flowing where there used to be silence, because something shifted today. Something sacred was exchanged. You gave up what you couldn't keep to receive what you cannot lose. And what's coming next? It won't just replace what you surrendered. It will redeem it. God never takes without returning multiplied. What left your hand didn't leave your life. It entered your future. Chosen one, you're walking in obedience. And obedience always leads to overflow. You encouraged someone while bleeding and divine strength flowed through you. Chosen one, this isn't just about a kind word. It's not just about showing up for someone. What you did today pierced into the heart of the spiritual realm. You reached out while you were still hurting. You lifted someone else while your own soul was weighed down. You gave what you needed, and that is the mark of the mature. That is the sign of the anointed. Anyone can pour from fullness, but it takes a chosen one to pour from emptiness and still overflow. You were bleeding, but you blessed. Wounded, but still walking. Silent in your suffering, yet still speaking life. That's more than compassion. That's intercession. That's priesthood. That's the mantle of those who carry heaven in earthen vessels. The pain didn't disqualify you. It qualified you. Because when you chose to look past your own storm to speak peace into someone else's, God said, now there's someone I can trust with power. You didn't wait to be healed before you became a healer. You didn't wait to feel whole before you became a vessel. You let the cracks in your own soul be the channel through which living water flowed, and heaven responded to that kind of surrender. The second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 4, confirms He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. That's what you did today. You took the comfort you barely had and gave it away. You didn't hoard it. You didn't isolate. You didn't say, let me get myself right first. You moved as you were. You poured anyway. And here's what you need to know. God is refilling you even now. The strength you gave out will return pressed down, shaken together, running over. The encouragement you gave while no one was encouraging you didn't vanish. It went into the ground as seed. And heaven promises a harvest for every seed sown in pain. You weren't faking, you were fighting. There's a difference. The world will see someone smiling through grief and call it denial. But the Spirit knows what they're witnessing is warfare. You weren't pretending everything was fine. You were declaring that even if you're not okay, God still is. And that is where true power begins. Do you realize how dangerous that makes you to the enemy? He doesn't know what to do with someone who bleeds and still builds someone who cries and still creates someone who walks through the fire and still lifts others out of it. You terrify darkness, not because you're immune to pain, but because you refuse to stop moving in the midst of it. You are not broken. You are poured out. And vessels that are poured out are the very ones God fills again and again. That's what makes you unstoppable. That's what sets you apart. While others withhold until they feel strong, you gave while weak, and your weakness was the very gateway for God's strength to show up. Do not mistake your tears for weakness. Your tears are liquid prayers. They carry more than emotion. They carry evidence that you didn't quit, that you still cared, that you still showed up, that something in you refused to go numb. And that matters. It all matters. The person you encouraged today, you may never know how deeply they needed it. You may never know how close they were to quitting, but God knows. And He used you as a bridge between despair and hope. Even if your own heart felt heavy, you became the lifeline for someone else. That's more powerful than miracles. That's legacy. And though you were bleeding, you didn't die there. You kept walking. You kept showing up. And that decision opened the door to something fresh. Because God does not use the most qualified. He uses the most surrendered. And you chosen one have surrendered in a way few ever will, so receive this now. What you poured out will return to you. What you gave God will multiply. And what you sacrificed in silence will be celebrated in the courts of heaven. You were bleeding, but you still carried someone. And because of that, God is carrying you now. He will not let your strength run dry. He will not let your sacrifice go unnoticed. The same way you stood in the gap for another heaven is now standing in the gap for you. Expect rest. Expect unexpected refreshment. Expect peace to meet you in places you've been battling alone. You've poured out, but God is about to pour back in. You gave from emptiness. Now fullness is chasing you. You resisted the call to quit, and all of heaven applauded. Chosen one, you may not have felt victorious today. You may not have shouted in triumph or seen instant breakthrough, but you made it through. You stayed, you endured, and that matters more than you realize. Because today, you were tempted to quit, not just in action, but in posture. You were tempted to shut down emotionally, spiritually, mentally, to retreat, to disconnect, to let the fire burn out. But you didn't. You kept going quietly, painfully, faithfully. You showed up in the middle of silence. You pressed forward even when you didn't feel the wind of encouragement at your back. You walked when it felt like nothing was moving. You lifted your head when discouragement weighed heavy on your chest. That is not weakness. That is warfare. That is how giants fall. That is how chains break. That is how destinies stay alive. Because quitting doesn't always look like walking away. Sometimes quitting is in the subtle compromise, the half-hearted effort, the numbing of desire, the loss of expectancy. And yet you refused to give in. You still hoped. You still prayed. You still believed, even if it was just a flicker of belief. That flicker was enough. Do not underestimate the power of not quitting. Every demon that came to wear you down had to flee when you stood your ground. Every lie that said you're wasting your time was proven false when you woke up and said, "Still here." Oh, you may feel tired, you may feel stretched, but you are still here. And that in itself is a testimony. You endured this day not in your own strength, but by grace you were upheld. Not by motivation, but by mercy you were carried. Not by willpower, but by the unseen hands of your Father. The book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9 proclaims, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Now you are closer to that harvest than you know. The very fact that quitting felt like an option proves how near you are to breakthrough, because pressure always intensifies just before the wall crumbles. Weariness always whispers loudest just before the answer comes. The enemy always attacks most viciously when you're one breath away from glory. And today, you did not fold. You stood. Even in your doubt, even in your aching, even in your silence, you didn't give up. Heaven noticed. And it didn't just applaud. You were strengthened in ways you won't fully understand yet. There were angels assigned to you today. You were not alone in the battle, even when it felt like it. You may feel as though nothing shifted, but the resistance you offered shifted everything, because every yes in exhaustion is a strike against the gates of darkness. Every step in obedience when you feel numb is an earthquake in the spiritual realm. Every moment you continue even when your soul wants to collapse is an act of holy defiance. This is how legacies are built. Not through comfort, not through hype, but through steady faithfulness, through refusal to stop believing, through an unshakable grip on God. Even when His voice seems quiet, you held on today. And because of that, the story moves forward. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. You are becoming even now. Even here, even in this low place, especially in this low place, the oil is pressed in secret. The wine is crushed in silence. And what's forming inside you now will soon be poured out for others. So rest tonight in this truth. You did not quit. You may not have soared, but you stood. You may not have shouted, but you survived. And survival, when wrapped in surrender, becomes the seed of revival. You are still in this. You are still marked, and God is still writing your next chapter one obedient breath at a time. And when you wake up tomorrow, even if nothing looks different, the realm of the Spirit will already be in motion. You've given heaven permission to fight for you simply by not giving up. This day was not lost. It was a line drawn in the sand. You didn't give in to the pressure. You didn't bow to exhaustion. You chose to endure. And for that, the angels rejoice, the heavens record, and your crown is being shaped in silence. You chose worship over worry, and the atmosphere shifted because of it. Chosen one today, you had every reason to panic, every reason to let fear speak louder than truth. The questions in your mind were real. The pressure was tangible. The what-ifs started swirling. The silence from heaven felt long, but instead of spiraling into fear, you lifted your eyes. You worshipped. Maybe not with a song, maybe not with hands raised high, but you leaned into trust. You whispered His name. You thanked Him even when your emotions didn't want to. You spoke His word back to Him, and heaven heard it all. That chosen one is a spiritual earthquake. Worry is natural, but worship is supernatural. It's the language of heaven. And when you chose to use it instead of giving into anxiety, you tore a hole in the dark. You made a place for glory to come in. You may not have felt goosebumps. You may not have cried or danced or shouted. But the moment your heart postured itself in surrender, God responded. Because worship isn't just singing, it's alignment. When you choose to magnify good over the storm, when you say, God, I don't understand, but I trust you, you step into divine power. You step into the eye of the storm and find peace that surpasses all understanding. You declare with your life that worry will not be your master. The book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 3 declares, You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. That was you today. The enemy tried to clutter your thoughts, tried to convince you that you were alone, tried to make you question everything God said, but you didn't take the bait. You pushed back, maybe through tears, maybe in silence, but your worship still rose up and it reached the throne. Do you know what happens when a worshiper chooses to praise in pain? Hell trembles because it means their roots go deep. It means they don't worship for comfort. They worship from covenant, and that's exactly who you are. You're not moved by circumstances. You're grounded in truth. Yes, the storm is loud. Yes, your heart has been heavy, but your praise has been louder in heaven than the noise has been on earth. You refuse to let your mind spiral. You refuse to let fear sit on the throne of your thoughts. And that choice opened something. It created a space for God's presence to dwell in the middle of your process. You didn't have to wait for the breakthrough to begin worshiping. You didn't wait for the victory to begin praising. You offered it up now, and heaven responds to now faith. You're not waiting on peace. Peace is waiting on you to worship, to shift your gaze, to say with boldness, Even if I don't see the way, I trust the one who made the way. Chosen one, you've matured. The old you would have worried for hours. The old you would have spiraled into worst-case scenarios. But this, you the anointed, you stepped into the fire with a song in your heart, and that matters more than you know. You are walking in power, quiet, power, unshakable power. You are choosing peace as your weapon. You are declaring with every breath that the storm doesn't own you. God does. So even if nothing has changed around you, yet know this. Something has changed inside you, and that internal shift will overflow into the external. You are becoming the kind of person who worships before the walls fall, the kind who praises before the sea parts, the kind who trusts in the middle, not just at the end. You have become the threat the enemy hoped you'd never discover. Because he can throw storms at you, but he can't stop your song. He can send lies your way, but he can't take your surrender. He can surround you with fear, but he can't drown out your worship when it rises from a heart rooted in heaven. So here's your declaration today. No hesitation, no explanation, just truth from your spirit. Comment, I trust you. Let the enemy hear it. Let your mind hear it. Let your future agree with it. That simple phrase is your battle cry. It says, even when I don't feel it, even when I don't understand it, even when everything around me says, worry, I worship. Oh, you've stepped into peace today. Peace that wasn't earned. Peace that wasn't forced. Peace that came as a gift from the one who sees your heart and says, that one still trusts me. Oh, you didn't choose fear. You chose worship, and heaven is responding. You starved the old you today, and your spirit grew stronger. Chosen one, something powerful happened today. Even if it felt quiet, even if no one else noticed, you made a decision that weakened your flesh and strengthened your spirit. You said no to an old appetite, no to a familiar voice, no to the pattern that used to pull you back. That wasn't just self-control, that was spiritual war. And you won. You didn't feed that thought. You didn't answer that text. You didn't revisit that old memory to feel something. You didn't let bitterness take root. You didn't numb your soul with a quick escape. You were tempted and you refused. You were invited and you walked away. That's not easy. That's not small. That's not forgettable. That is divine maturity. Every time you resist what once controlled you, your spirit is expanding. Your discernment is sharpening. Your authority is growing. You are not who you used to be. And you proved that today, not with words, not with declarations, but with decisions. The book of Romans, chapter 6, verse 11 commands, count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. That's what you did. You counted yourself dead to the thing that used to own you. That voice, that craving, that pattern, it knocked and you didn't answer. You recognized it for what it was, and you said, not anymore. And do you know how powerful that is? It means the cycle is breaking. It means the old chains are rusting. It means the identity the enemy tried to place on you is being shredded in the spirit. There's something sacred about quiet victories. When no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when you feel the pull to slip back and instead you lean forward, that's holiness. That's transformation. That's becoming the real you. The old you may have needed validation. The old you may have acted out of insecurity, fear, loneliness, or pride. But today, you denied that version. And every time you do, you give more room for the true you to rise. You are not the wounded one anymore. You are not the addict. You are not the people pleaser, the reactor, the chameleon. You are not the victim. You are not the performer. You are the anointed one, the called one, the chosen one. And today, your decision confirmed it. That's why the pressure felt strong. That's why the temptation felt loud, because your resistance was tearing something down in the spirit. This wasn't just about behavior. It was about identity. The enemy wanted you to forget who you are, but you remembered. You remembered your worth. You remembered your calling. You remembered that old appetites don't fit a new creation. And because of that, you starved what was dying and fed what was eternal. That moment when you chose purity over indulgence, peace over pettiness, silence over reaction, prayer over pride, that was when heaven whispered, "There they go again. My child, my warrior, still choosing me." You didn't need applause. You didn't need recognition. You just needed alignment, and you found it. So walk with confidence today. You may not feel like you did something massive, but in the realm of heaven, the atmosphere shifted. You chose obedience. You chose strength. You chose spiritual hunger over fleshly cravings. And that choice is building something eternal in you. You're growing. Can you feel it? You're hearing more clearly. You're seeing differently. You're no longer led by impulse or emotion. You're led by purpose, by the Spirit. And that makes you a threat to the kingdom of darkness. You didn't just survive today. You grew today. So now let this be your moment to pause and agree with what God is doing in you. This isn't hype. This isn't emotion. This is alignment. If this word just put language to your inner victory, don't let it pass. Like this message, if you know you starved something toxic today, share it if you know someone else needs to feel the strength to walk away. And subscribe if you're ready to keep feeding your spirit and stay surrounded by messages that pull you deeper into your calling. This isn't just a feed, it's a prophetic flow. And you're not here by accident. You're here because your spirit is ready. Chosen one, today you silenced the voice of the old you and gave volume to the voice of the Spirit. And that more than anything is why you're unstoppable. You carried the light into darkness today, and everything around you felt it. Chosen one, you may not have even realized what you were doing. You were just being who you are. You showed up to that space, that room, that conversation, and the atmosphere responded. Not because you announced your presence, but because your presence carries something that cannot be hidden. The light in you speaks louder than your words. It pierces places you didn't even know were covered in shadows. You are a walking contradiction to the spirit of this age. While others bring confusion, you bring clarity. While chaos swirls, you carry peace. While fear controls rooms, your quiet confidence shifts the energy. You don't even have to try. You don't have to force it. The light in you disrupts darkness by simply existing, and that's why you felt pressure in certain environments. It's not that people don't like you. It's that spirits don't recognize you as one of them. You make compromise uncomfortable. You make casualness feel exposed. You don't even have to speak, and conviction rises. That's not arrogance. That's anointing. That's the weight of God's presence resting on you. You may not feel like you're glowing, but in the spirit realm, you're blazing. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14 declares, "You are the light of the world." A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. You were never meant to blend in. You weren't made to shrink to fit. You were born to stand out, not in pride, but in purity. Not in loudness, but in clarity. And the more you embrace your light, the less tolerance you'll have for falsehood, double living, and surface-level existence. That's what's been happening in you. You've grown tired of certain conversations, not because you're better than anyone, but because your spirit has outgrown small talk wrapped in brokenness. You've started withdrawing from environments that drain your fire. That's not you becoming distant, that's you becoming consecrated. And today, without even trying, you walked into places and made darkness uncomfortable. Maybe it was a workplace full of gossip, maybe a family dynamic drenched in tension, maybe a conversation that was veering into manipulation or compromise. But when you showed up, you didn't have to fix it. You just stayed anchored, and the light in you did the work. That's what light does. It reveals, it repels, it heals. And it's why your presence feels like both a mirror and a balm to those around you. Some people will draw near to you without knowing why. They're being drawn to the God in you, the peace in you, the fire in you. Others will withdraw, get passive-aggressive, or even hostile, not because of what you've done, but because your purity exposes their compromise. And you need to know this. That's okay. You weren't sent to please every room. You were sent to shift them. Not with force, not with control, but by simply being filled with the Spirit and unashamed of the light you carry. The darkness doesn't get to decide how bright you burn. And even when you feel tired, even when you're not sure what difference you're making, understand this: the light in you cannot be ignored. Demons flee where you walk. Confusion clears where you sit. Fear weakens when you speak. Not because of your strength, but because of your presence, because your presence is proof that God is in the room. You are not powerless in dark places. You are placed there on purpose. And while others are still trying to figure out how to fight the darkness, you've realized that the greatest weapon is simply refusing to dim your flame. You're not trying to win arguments. You're not trying to impress. You're walking in peace and truth, in quiet authority. And that is what sends shockwaves through the spirit realm. So don't shrink when they don't understand you. Don't apologize for the conviction your life brings. Don't dilute your light so others feel more comfortable in their shadows. You were made to burn. You were sent to carry glory into dry, dead, chaotic places. And when you walk into those rooms, heaven walks in with you. Even if no one claps, even if no one thanks you, even if you feel unseen or misunderstood, know this. Your light is doing more than you know. You are revealing Jesus just by being fully yielded. You are a torchbearer. You are a catalyst. You are proof that light still shines in the darkness and that the darkness has not and cannot overcome it. You took the low place and God said, "That's my chosen one." In a world that's climbing for position, racing for validation, and shouting for recognition, you chose humility. You had a chance to boast, to defend yourself, to take credit, but you didn't. You stepped back. You stayed quiet. You honored others when you could have elevated yourself. You allowed someone else to be seen even when your flesh wanted the spotlight. That wasn't weakness. That was spiritual authority in disguise. Humility is not silence born out of fear. It is restraint born out of strength. You could have taken the high seat. You could have insisted on being right. You could have used your influence, your words, your reputation to gain ground, but instead you bowed low. You chose to reflect Jesus not in grandeur, but in gentleness, and God saw it. Heaven honors the ones who choose the hidden path, the ones who resist self-promotion, the ones who prefer to wash feet rather than chase platforms, the ones who walk in meekness not for approval, but because they know who they are in Him. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verse 11 declares, "For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." Chosen one, you walked in that word today. You chose to be slow to speak. You let others go first. You kept your heart pure when pride tried to sneak in. You stayed soft when criticism came. You allowed God to defend you instead of building your own case. And that decision, the one no one else may ever see, was recorded in the courts of heaven. You have to understand this. Humility shakes the kingdom of darkness because Satan is pride personified. He operates through entitlement, ego, and ambition. So every time you lower yourself to serve, to forgive, to love without applause, you strike a blow to his agenda. Every time you refuse to build your identity on what people think, you reclaim territory in the spirit. Today you took a position that didn't match your ability. You let someone else shine. You chose to submit rather than control. And in doing so, you walked like Jesus. Do you remember what he did just hours before his crucifixion? He washed feet. The King of Glory knelt before the dirty, tired, imperfect feet of his followers. He didn't demand they honor him. He served them. That same spirit, that same humility was in you today. You might not feel like anything changed, but the oil that flows from humility is unlike any other. It's quiet, but it's heavy. It's soft, but it's sharp. And when God minds a humble vessel, he pours himself without measure. You created space for God's presence to increase. Humility always attracts glory. It might not look flashy, but it makes you usable. It keeps you open. It guards you from spiritual pride. It protects the anointing from being polluted by ambition. And right now, even as you read this, heaven is surrounding you with favor, not because you reached for it, but because you refused to. You didn't chase promotion. You trusted the one who lifts in due time, and due time is closer than you think. There are rooms being prepared for you, doors being unlocked, not by manipulation, but by honor. God saw you take the low place, and he's about to call your name to come higher. You won't need to beg for opportunities. You won't need to fight for space. You'll be invited because your spirit carries what others have tried to fake. You've chosen the posture of a servant, and God is raising up servants who can carry glory. So now, mark this moment. If you know today was a test of humility, if you sense in your spirit that God was watching how you handled what could have fed your ego, then let your next step be prophetic. Comment the number 4744 below. This is your private altar becoming public agreement. It's your yes in the quiet becoming a witness in the spirit. That number means I went low and God lifted me in the spirit. You didn't lower yourself to be pitied. You lowered yourself to be positioned. You didn't hide to be overlooked. You hid to be anointed. And this moment, this marking is heaven saying, I saw that. I honor that. I will respond to that. When you go low, you don't disappear. You go deeper into purpose, into presence, into power. You may have bowed today, but soon you will rise crowned. Not everything you do needs an audience, but some things need to be acknowledged by heaven, and heaven already has chosen one. Never be afraid to bow. Those who go low will rise in power because God Himself is the lifter of the humble. You let God use your pain and something eternal began to grow. Chosen one, you've been carrying things no one else could see, private tears, silent, disappointment, questions that echo in the dark. You've endured seasons where the weight of it all nearly crushed you. You cried out for relief, for clarity, for answers, and sometimes heaven was silent. But today, without knowing it, you did something holy. You didn't run from the pain. You didn't numb it. You didn't pretend it wasn't there. Instead, you handed it over. You said, God, I don't understand, but you can have it. That's when the shift began. You may not have seen anything change on the outside, but something deep in the soil of your spirit cracked open. What had been buried in sorrow started to sprout in surrender. The tears you thought were wasted were actually watering something invisible, something sacred, something the world cannot replicate or explain, because pain in the hands of God is not pointless. It becomes seed. The book of Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8 declares, You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Every tear mattered, every sigh. Every night you lay awake asking why none of it disappeared into nothingness. Heaven was recording. The same God who numbers the stars numbered your cries, and now He is taking what the enemy meant to bury you with and using it to build you. Pain has a way of shaping people, but in God's hands it doesn't just shape. You are refined. It doesn't just wound. You are anointed. It doesn't just break. You are rebuilt stronger. And that's what's happening in you now. You let God touch what you used to hide. You opened up the scar. You exposed the wound. You didn't sanitize it. You surrendered it. And when you did, the enemy lost another foothold. The darkness that fed off your silence, shame, and bitterness was broken. Because the enemy's strategy is always the same. Keep them bitter. Keep them broken. Keep them in cycles of quiet pain. But today you did the opposite. You offered your pain back to the one who already bore it. You let Him use it. And that changes everything. That heartbreak, it's becoming a testimony. That betrayal, it's turning into discernment. That loneliness, it's birthing a deeper intimacy with God than you've ever known. He never wasted it. He's been waiting for this moment, not to explain it, but to redeem it. Because God is not obligated to answer your questions before He begins the healing. Sometimes He just needs your yes, even with the question still hanging in the air. And you gave it to Him. You didn't need all the pieces to say, I still trust you. You didn't wait for the pain to leave before you asked Him to use it. That kind of faith unlocks something rare. That kind of surrender invites glory into suffering. What once felt like a grave has become ground for something divine to grow. You may not be able to name it yet. You may not even feel any different yet, but in the spirit, fruit is forming. Beauty is being made from ashes, and it will not just bless you, it will feed others. This is what makes your story weighty. Not because it's been easy, but because you let God write through the hardest chapters, because you let Him shape you in the fire, not just on the mountaintop, because you're not waiting to be okay before you begin to shine. You're shining through the broken places. And that is holy. That's why your voice will carry authority. That's why your presence will carry peace. That's why others will be healed simply by hearing what you survived and how you gave it back to God instead of letting it harden you. Chosen one, what you let God touch today will not return void. He is already weaving your pain into purpose, already breathing on the very thing that tried to silence you, already preparing a harvest where the enemy tried to plant despair. So hold your head high, not because you've figured it all out, but because you've laid it all down. And that is the posture of those who carry power, quiet, deep, unstoppable power. God is not finished with your story. He's just begun to use the part you tried to skip over. And that right there is where His glory will shine the brightest. You refused to blend in, and the heavens took note. Chosen one, this world is desperate for sameness. It rewards imitation. It celebrates compromise. It pressures you to water down the truth, to soften your fire, to become more palatable, more quiet, more like them. But today, without shouting it, without needing applause, you stood apart. You said no to the easy way. No to the shallow road. No to fitting in with what your spirit knows is false. That matters more than you know. You weren't loud about it. You didn't post a speech, but in your spirit there was a line drawn. A quiet refusal, a decision not to be moved by the opinions of others or by the pressure to conform. That's not rebellion. That's righteous resistance. And heaven saw it. The path you're on is narrow for a reason. Not many walk it. Not because it's invisible, but because it's costly. It requires conviction when comfort is easier. It demands consistency when the world offers convenience. It invites misunderstanding, and yet you keep showing up to that path. You keep walking it alone if you have to. The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2 commands, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And you chose transformation today instead of conformity. You let the Spirit renew your mind instead of letting the world shape your soul. You didn't let fear of being different pull you back. You embraced the difference. You walked in it. You wore it like a mantle. And because of that, something shifted. The truth is, the pressure to blend in is subtle. It comes as suggestions, glances, small compromises that don't seem like a big deal. It shows up in silence when you're tempted not to speak. It shows up in action when you're tempted to go along with what you know doesn't align with the truth. And yet you saw it for what it was, and you didn't give in. That's not stubbornness. That's discernment. God has placed a line inside you that the world cannot erase. A sense of knowing, a holy tension that rises up when something doesn't match your calling. It's that part of you that feels uncomfortable when the room gets spiritually loud with the wrong things. It's the inner compass that whispers, "You weren't made for this." You've tried to fit in before. It never worked. You've tried to stay quiet to keep the peace. You've tried to make others comfortable by dulling your light. And every time you felt it, that ache in your spirit, that sense of misalignment, that knowing, "This isn't who I am." Today you stopped trying to blend and something broke in the atmosphere. When you choose to stand apart, you become a marker, a lighthouse, a testimony. You make others aware that there is another way, another rhythm, another kingdom at work. You don't even have to preach. Your life becomes the sermon. Your choices become the message. And yes, it may cost you some people. It may make you misunderstood. It may place you in lonely spaces, but it will place you under open heaven, because God always blesses those who refuse to bow to idols, even modern ones. Image, attention, influence, relevance. And while others are exhausting themselves trying to stay visible, you're becoming holy in the hidden place. You're becoming set apart in a world addicted to sameness. That's why your presence disturbs rooms, not because of your tone, but because of your purity. Not because you judge, but because you carry light. Not because you try to convict, but because conviction follows you. You are not average. You are not meant to blend. You are God's interruption to the systems of this age. The more you embrace your difference, the more heaven will trust you with influence, not popularity, but real authority. The kind that moves atmospheres. The kind that shifts nations. The kind that doesn't need microphones to be effective because it's not about volume. It's about substance. And you have substance. Chosen one, you've chosen to be consecrated, not just talented, not just relevant, but pure. You've said no to blending in. And in doing so, you've said yes to being marked by God. So stand tall today, not in arrogance, but in quiet confidence. You're walking a road few choose, but many will follow, because you dared to walk it first. You're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not too much. You are exactly who God called you to be. And you are just getting started. You guarded what was holy today, and the kingdom of darkness took a loss. Chosen one, you were tested again, not out in the open, but in the subtle places, your mind, your emotions, your decisions. You could have let the world into your sacred space. You could have allowed a little compromise, just a moment of flesh, just a word out of turn, just one small detour. But you didn't. You stood guard. You sensed the threat. You felt the tension. And instead of opening the gates, you raised your shield. You said, "Not this time. Not this temple, not this heart." And even if no one else saw the moment, heaven did. God trusted you with something today. A thought, a prompting, a boundary, a nudge in your spirit that whispered, "Protect this." And you obeyed. You guarded the oil. You protected the flame. You said, "No, not out of fear, but out of reverence." That's the sign of someone who is no longer casual about the presence of God. You're not treating your calling like an accessory. You're treating it like an assignment. You're not handling the sacred like it's ordinary. You're walking carefully because you know the cost. You know the weight. You know the responsibility. The book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23 commands, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." And that's what you did. You guarded your heart from bitterness. You guarded your ears from gossip. You guarded your mind from lies. You didn't entertain what once used to feel normal. You didn't click what you could have. You didn't respond the way you used to. You didn't let the wrong voice linger too long. And every one of those decisions was an act of spiritual warfare. Because holiness isn't just about what you do. It's about what you protect. You protected your purity. You protected your peace. You protected your spiritual rhythm. You protected your assignment. That is not small. That is not overly cautious. That is maturity. That is fire-tested obedience. And because you guarded what was holy, God is getting ready to entrust you with more. He doesn't give more revelation, more responsibility, more influence to those who let anything walk through their gates. He gives it to those who have proven that they know what's sacred. And you've proven that. You are not passive. You are not naive. You are not soft. You are a gatekeeper. You are someone who recognizes the value of what you carry. And because of that, you don't tolerate everything. You don't give everyone access to your energy, your attention, your spirit. You know how quickly one wrong thought, one wrong connection, one moment of compromise can steal your strength. So you chose honor. You chose separation. You chose. And yes, sometimes that makes you feel isolated. Sometimes it feels like everyone else is free to indulge, to joke, to scroll, to say whatever they want. But you're not called to live like everyone else. You're called to carry glory. Glory does not rest where the gates are wide open to anything and everything. Glory rests where the atmosphere is guarded. And today, you created that space. You said, "God, I'd rather feel lonely and anointed than accepted and compromised." And heaven responded. Maybe it came with stillness, maybe with peace, maybe you suddenly felt lighter, or maybe you felt the battle, the pushback, the resistance that always follows when you take a stand. But here's what you need to know. You won that fight and the enemy lost access. He thought he had a crack. He thought he could sneak through, but you blocked him with your yes. You slammed the gate shut with your discernment. You choked out the compromise with your consecration. And because of that, God is about to pour more clarity, more presence, more direction, more favor. So don't loosen your grip. Keep your gates guarded. Keep your spirit sharp. Keep your standards high. You're not being too deep. You're being set apart. And if you've been feeling like this message is reading your mail, if it feels like this exact moment happened to you today, then pause. Don't just scroll on. Don't let this word be just another reminder. Like this message, if your spirit is stirred. Share it if you know someone else is called to be a gatekeeper too. Comment below and say, "I will protect it." Subscribe if you know this kind of word is what your soul has been needing and you don't want to walk this narrow path alone. This isn't about legalism. This is about holiness. This is about revival starting in the most overlooked of places, your inner world. And you chosen one are building an altar in the places no one sees. You're not just receiving glory. You're making room for it. You chose light again and again, and God calls you faithful. Chosen one, this wasn't just one moment of strength today. It was many. It was repeated silent decisions to lean into truth instead of lies, to walk in clarity instead of confusion, to step into peace instead of panic. You didn't just make one choice for light. You kept making it over and over, thought by thought, action by action. And that matters deeply in the eyes of heaven. Because consistency in the Spirit is one of the rarest forms of worship. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it is steady. And in a world that runs after what's quick, easy, and emotional, you chose what's consistent, slow, and sacred. You didn't base your obedience on how you felt. You based it on who you know Him to be. You chose light this morning when you refused to replay that old lie in your mind. You chose light this afternoon when you responded with kindness instead of sarcasm. You chose light this evening when you worshipped with a tired soul. And God saw every one of those choices. The book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse 8 declares, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord." Live as children of light. That's what you did today. You lived like someone who's been rescued. You walked like someone who's been transformed. You didn't go back. You didn't relapse into old mindsets. Even if the temptations whispered, even if the weight was heavy, you kept choosing light. And that's the evidence of someone who's been changed. You're not just surviving anymore. You're walking, you're building, you're deciding, you're standing, and the light inside you is not flickering, it's growing. Every time you resist the shadows, your light expands. Every time you silence a lie with truth, your vision sharpens. You didn't compromise today. You didn't shade your convictions to make others comfortable. You didn't water down your faith to fit in. You didn't lower your voice when the Spirit wanted to speak. And though it cost you something, though it left you feeling a little different, a little isolated, a little misunderstood, you stayed faithful. You've been called many things in your life, but today, heaven wrote a word over your name, faithful. Not because you were perfect, not because you had a breakthrough, but because you chose the light again and again and again. And that's what makes you dangerous to darkness. Darkness cannot coexist with light. It must flee. That's why your presence shifts atmospheres. That's why conversations bend around you. That's why people either draw close or pull away. They're not reacting to your personality. They're responding to the light. The kind of light you carry isn't artificial. It's not from performance. It's from proximity. You've been walking with God in quiet places. You've been opening the Word when no one else knew. You've been praying through battles you haven't told anyone about. You've been fasting, forgiving, repenting, worshiping, not to impress, but to be close. And that closeness is what radiates from you. People feel what they can't name, and they know you're different. That difference isn't pride, it's presence. The presence of God has marked you, and now, wherever you go, light goes with you. That's why the pressure is real. That's why the spiritual warfare has intensified, not because you're failing, but because you're becoming more effective. Every step you take in the Spirit is reclaiming ground. Every day you stay consistent is another reminder to the enemy that you cannot be bought shaken or silenced. You are not double-minded. You are rooted, anchored, lit with fire. The light in you is not fragile. It's tested. You've made it through too much to be casual about your calling now. So even if no one applauded today, heaven did. Even if no one said, "Well done," the Father whispered it over you. He watched the decisions. He heard the prayers. He saw the resistance. He counted it all as faithfulness, and faithfulness is never wasted. You may not see the fruit yet, but it's coming. Every time you chose light, you planted something, and in the right season, in the appointed time, it will bloom. It will speak. It will testify that you were one who chose well even when it wasn't easy. Chosen one, you've walked through dark places without letting them live in you. You didn't just escape the darkness. You rejected it. You outgrew it. You rose above it, and you've become a carrier of light that will never be extinguished. Keep doing this one thing because it's building something eternal. Chosen one, there's something you did today that didn't look spectacular. It wasn't flashy. It didn't come with applause or recognition, but it was real. It was costly. It was sacred. And that one act, so simple, so pure, is the very thing that is moving heaven on your behalf. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a perfect prayer. It was your consistency. It was your yes when no one else heard. It was your decision to remain faithful when no one was watching. That's the kind of obedience that shifts destinies. This is the part most people underestimate. They think transformation happens in a single moment, a supernatural explosion, a mountaintop encounter. And sometimes it does. But more often it happens like this, step by step, yes after yes, in the silence, in the repetition, in the one thing you keep doing. That one thing, your daily surrender, is building something invisible but unshakable. You've been doing it without even realizing the full weight of it. Saying no to distractions. Getting up when you feel empty. Choosing forgiveness again. Turning off what pollutes. Worshipping through weariness. Guarding your spirit when it would be easier to give in. That one small act has become your altar. The book of Hebrews chapter 6 verse 10 declares, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. He's not forgetting. Not one time you chose him instead of comfort. Not one time you obeyed even when your heart didn't feel like it. Not one time you held your tongue, chose purity, shut the door, and prayed or served someone when you needed help yourself. Heaven has been tracking it all, and that's why you can't stop now. You're not just surviving. You're building a legacy, a rhythm, a testimony, a path that others will walk after you. Chosen one, pause and let this truth settle deep into your spirit. There are entire generations yet unborn who will one day trace the beginning of their spiritual inheritance, their breakthrough, their unexplainable favor directly back to the quiet, hidden things you are doing right now in faith. Those small, seemingly insignificant acts of obedience you keep offering when no one is watching, those unseen sacrifices you make when it would be easier to give up that one persistent thing the Holy Spirit keeps nudging you to continue. Do not stop. Never stop. Even when it feels painfully repetitive, even when the heavens seem silent, even when the old fire you once felt has been replaced by simple duty, keep going. God is not merely building a fleeting moment of strength inside you. He is forging endurance, the kind of unshakable spiritual muscle that carries kingdoms. The ones who endure to the end are the very ones Scripture promises will receive the crown of life. You are becoming truly unshakable, not through one dramatic display of power, not through a single emotional high, but through the quiet, relentless choice to stand in the light again and again and again. Every time you choose faithfulness when quitting would feel so much easier. Heaven calls you by a new name. Faithful. Chosen one. What you experienced today was not just one isolated moment of strength. It was the beautiful accumulation of hundreds, perhaps thousands of smaller moments, repeated silent, holy decisions to lean hard into truth when lies screamed louder, to walk in clarity when confusion tried to cloud your mind, to step deliberately into peace when panic banged on every door of your heart. You did not make one single choice for light today. You made it over and over, hour after hour, thought by thought, action by action, reaction by reaction. And every single one of those choices was seen recorded and celebrated in the courts of heaven. Because consistency in the spirit realm is one of the rarest, most precious forms of worship a believer can offer. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It is not designed to impress crowds or gain followers. It is steady, quiet, persistent and therefore infinitely powerful. In a generation that chases what is quick, what is easy, what feels exciting and emotional, you have chosen the narrow road of what is consistent, what is slow, what is sacred, what is eternal. You refuse to base your obedience on fleeting feelings or temporary moods. You rooted it firmly in the unchanging character of the God. You know the God who never lies, never fails, never abandons. You chose light this very morning when you deliberately shut down that old familiar lie the enemy tried to replay in your thought life. You chose light this afternoon when someone wounded you and you answered with kindness instead of the sharp sarcasm that would have felt so justified. You chose light this evening when your body was exhausted, your heart was heavy, yet you still lifted tired hands in worship and spoke words of life over your situation. You chose light when you forgave again. You chose light when you prayed for someone who hurt you. You chose light when you opened the Word, even though you felt nothing at first. Chosen one God saw every single one of those choices. He leaned in close and smiled over every single one. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 8 powerfully reminds us, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light." That is exactly what you did today. And every day, you keep showing up like this. You lived as a child of light, not because it was comfortable, not because it was easy, not because the feelings were overwhelming, but simply because it is who you now are in Christ. Each decision to reflect the Father's heart, even in the smallest, most mundane moments, was a fresh declaration of your complete transformation. You are no longer the person who once walked in darkness. You are light itself, placed in the Lord, radiating His nature wherever you go. You did not merely avoid darkness today. You actively carried light into every room, every conversation, every hidden corner of your own soul that still needed healing. You brought light to that tense family moment. You brought light to that difficult co-worker. You brought light to your own weary thoughts in the quiet of the night. And with every step of obedience, with every refusal to partner with darkness, you grew stronger, more rooted, more unshakable, more radiant than the day before. Heaven is not merely taking note. Heaven is throwing a celebration over you right now. Angels are rejoicing. The Father is bragging about you in the throne room. Your quiet faithfulness is building a legacy that will far outlast every temporary noise this world has to offer. Chosen one, the seeds you are sowing in these hidden seasons of consistency are not falling to the ground and dying. They are being gathered, multiplied, and prepared for a harvest that will feed nations. Generations will rise up and call you blessed because you refused to quit when it was hard, because you kept choosing light when darkness offered an easier way, because you kept showing up when no one else noticed. Your endurance is not in vain. Your quiet worship is not forgotten. Your steadfast heart is not overlooked. So keep choosing light tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Keep walking in truth, even when it costs you. Keep offering the sacrifice of praise when your soul feels dry. Keep forgiving when it still hurts. Keep believing when the promise feels impossible. Keep standing when everyone else sits down. Because the God who sees in secret is the God who rewards in the open. The God who watches every hidden choice is the same God who will one day shout your name before the nations. Chosen one, you are not just seen. You are deeply, perfectly, eternally known. You are fiercely loved. And in the eyes of the only one whose opinion will matter 1,000 years from now, you are called faithful. Keep going. The crown is already being prepared. The reward is already on its way. The legacy has already begun. Amen.